Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your hosts.
I'm John.
And I'm CC. And if you think that was the most annoying way I can do our intro, you will find out that you are sorely mistaken.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Anyway, we are here to talk about all the anime we watched for each season. Speaking of which, we made it through our first one. Hooray!
Hey!
Hey! I call that certified. But that also means we got a whole new season ahead of us and should take a look at all the new shows we might or might not be watching in the coming weeks. And yeah, without any further ado, we will do just that in our sneak peek.
I get the picture. They try to hit ya. They try to kick your window down and out.
So in our last sneak peek, we only discussed 4 shows we were interested in, but we talked about each show so long that it was almost close to one of our normal reviews. So we decided to go a slightly different route this time and give each show we took a peek at 1 or 2 sentences of due diligence. So, John, why don't you go ahead and tell us about a show that you watched the first 1 or 2 episodes of?
Yeah, sure. There's going to be a lot of crossover between our choices, but one show that I had watched the first episode of was Flying Witch. It's animated by our boys over at JC Staff. And I don't know, just something about it called out to me because I like when stories marry that slice of life with a little bit of the, supernatural, because, it's all about this young lady who's training to become a witch, and obviously she can fly. I mean, spoilers, if the name of the show doesn't give it away, but from the first episode, it seems very, very pleasant.
Yeah, pleasant is the word I would choose as well. It's very calm. It's very quiet in a way. Like it's not super hectic or anything. Even though our main character is a bit of a bumbling person.
She's a little bit of an airhead.
Yeah,
but
pretty much.
One thing I did like was everyone's reactions when she started flying. It's just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What's happening? What's going on?
Yeah, but it wasn't like not like, oh my god, it's a witch. I mean,
yeah, it wasn't over the top. They were just like, eh. And the looks on their faces painted their reaction for them perfectly.
Which is it's funny because the show never tells us that witches are an established thing in this universe before that happens. So I think if I remember correctly,
they don't touch on it before that, but they kind of talk about it a little bit later.
Yeah, but when does things happen and you expect like, oh my god, they're totally gonna freak out because witch or something they've never seen like that, and I'm like, oh okay, they know that something like that exists, and that's why Yeah, I like that show too. I also, like you said, like a bit of slice of life mixed with the supernatural is always interesting. That weirdly enough is what is most appealing to me when it comes to the works of one Mr. Stephen King, who always likes to mix like everyday life horror with supernatural horror. And yeah. So
and I mean, it's tough to strike a balance because there have been some stories to do it much better than others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we'll see how this turns out. I like the characters, but I don't know if the show is not too quiet for me. Or I've only watched the first episode, but yeah, it might be a bit too. I don't know.
Too grounded.
It depends. Yeah, if nothing happens, like if there's no basic underlying plot that is going somewhere, and it's just, hey, now our protagonist is doing this today, and now she's doing this today, and hey, this is the daily life of a witch in this universe. That might not like keep me around for the entire run of the show.
Yeah, so. I get that. I mean, sometimes that does it for me because it's one of those things. I guess you can't say truth is stranger than fiction kind of story because there are obvious fictional elements at play.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'll stick around for a few more episodes, see how it is.
All right. So a show I picked up. Of course, some of the shows I watched in earlier seasons got a second season, which is Concrete Revolution and Ushio and Tora, and I will probably talk about those once they're wrapped up, because I don't see me dropping those now. So yeah, we'll get to that later. A show that I'm not sure if I will keep it around actually is Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney.
Yeah, about that.
It's a bit of a mess, or bit is an understatement actually.
A1 spent all of their budget on Erased.
Yeah, well, that's the question. I feel like, I don't know. Was Capcom the cheap one here again?
You know, that's possible.
Yeah, I feel it's likely, because yeah, this show looks like ass. This show looks like total ass, while it shouldn't. I mean, a lot of people, I don't know if all of our listeners know the Ace Attorney or Gak-Ten Saiban series, which is a big like visual novel-esque franchise by Nintendo, where you know,
by Capcom.
Sorry,
Which was
for Nintendo consoles.
Which is funny because it started off as a Game Boy Advance launch title in Japan, and look how big it's gotten. Which I think it's great. I think it's great that the series has gotten to where it is, but the show doesn't do it the justice it deserves.
Yeah, kind of doesn't. I mean, I only played the first game. I liked it well enough, but I'm not a big fan of visual novels, and you know, I don't know. I can't really connect to those as well as I want to. So I was like, hey, maybe so I don't have to play this myself. I can either, you know, watch someone play it or instead watch this anime. And yeah, I might keep around just to do that, to know where the story goes, if they don't just cover the first game and be done with it, because I already know the story of that one.
I have a feeling that they're probably only going to do the first game.
Oh, we'll see.
But
I mean, Rockman, Mega Man Battle Network got like 5 seasons or something. So
well,
why not Ace Attorney, which is a much more successful franchise?
They tried to cover. Well, they did cover all 6 of the Battle Network games, and they tried to do Star Force, but they didn't get to the 3rd game, which is a shame because it's my favorite Star Force game.
The Star Force series was actually pretty decent in my opinion. I liked it quite a lot.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, the problem with these sorts of series is obvious. You're kind of rolling the dice when it's a game tie-in, because sometimes it'll be, you know, like really, really good, and other times you know, you'll get this.
It's lackluster. Yeah, definitely. Like, really, it's like the cheapest thing that A1 put out in quite a while, I think, and just in terms of animation and how the characters are handled and presentation, everything.
Like, I remember the Xenosaga tie-in anime was oof.
Oh yeah. Oh god, I remember that too.
But I mean, I guess, you know, there are exceptions to the rule. I mean, I never watch it myself, but I hear the Tales of the Abyss series was pretty good. I mean, I played the game, so I didn't even bother watching the show.
Was that A1? I thought that was Sunrise.
I don't.
No, that was Sunrise. I'm pretty sure.
Hold on. Studio. Oh no, Sunrise. You're right.
Yeah. All right.
I did not know
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I didn't watch that completely either, but yeah, that at least looked nice. I can agree. Not as nice as the animation for the game, but nice enough.
Well, you know.
But that was Production IG, so come on, people. Scaling. Anyway, another one you picked up. You want to talk about?
Kiznaiver.
Yes,
I'm always because Studio Trigger is one of those that I just, you know, I like to see what they're up to. But Kiznaiver just kind of set itself up for some weird, crazy stuff in its first episode, and I just want to see where they go with it, because, you know, you've got a main character who, like, essentially doesn't feel pain as how they seem to paint him. But you know, this whole idea of dividing pain amongst others. So I mean, I could see some directions they could go with it, but I'm not 100% certain. So it got me intrigued.
Yeah, we will see where it goes. I guess Mari Okada is a bit of a mixed bag. I liked Iron Blooded Orphans, but I've heard she's also done some, you know, not so stellar writing. And there's one show this season that seems to be downright bad that she's, you know, heading the script for The Lost Village or something, which I haven't picked up, but I heard it's like
Yeah, I'm not
so,
familiar with
maybe
that.
so bad that it's good. Oh well, but yeah, we'll see where it goes. I think it's an interesting setup too. Blatant social messages aside, social commentary aside. Um, but yeah, what kind of put me off in the first episode was the titular, the main girl, he would call it, I guess, like our
Oh,
main female protagonist.
Sonozaki.
Yeah, I really want to see what her deal is, because right now she's a real asshole.
Yeah.
She just throws our main character, who can feel pain but can still be heard, of a set of stairs, and immediately after is when his friends ask him how he got hurt or why he was in an operation, she says, "Oh, he just threw himself down a set of stairs." Yeah, fuck you, lady. What the hell?
I mean, I think what they're trying to do with Agata is, I have a feeling what she's trying to do is trying to build his confidence, because he's very passive and he just doesn't seem to stand up for himself. He's like, so he just takes it no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Even
Yeah, I guess I gotta see where the characters go in this and see if I will stick around. The story premise itself is interesting enough, but I don't know if that will be enough to keep me around. So let's see. And the same goes for another show I watched the first episode of. That's Bungou Stray Dogs.
Yeah.
And it's kind of neat in terms of, hey, here's this detective agency who have, all their members have supernatural power, and well, we have seen that before, but it's also they're all very, very pretty men, well, except for one, all very pretty men, and this is the Fujoshi bait show of this season.
Yeah,
I'd
a
say.
little bit, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not, that has nothing to do with it, but I'm not that fond of the characters yet, at least not after the first episode. There wasn't really anyone who I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I would like to see where he or she goes.
I mean, I like that they're all very quirky and crazy, but
yeah, they're very quirky. Like, he has this weird tick where he tries to kill himself for some reason.
yeah,
And I'm pretty sure
that's a little bit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that gets elaborated on, but right now it's just, yeah, okay, he has that quirk. That guy is poor and hungry and always can eat, and is also a were-tiger for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird show, and I don't.
I
Yeah.
do like how they played that off in the first episode. How Atsushi thinks, oh, there's this tiger following me around, and he just doesn't know, which I thought was pretty cool.
It was
the
cool,
way
yeah,
they
but
brought it
I
to light
knew,
for him.
yeah, it was cool, but I knew where they were going with this, and
Yeah.
oh, we'll see. I hope the characters get a bit more interesting to me, and we'll see. I'll definitely keep watching until like the third episode or something. Another show you picked up. You want to talk about?
Oh boy. So I was saying before we started recording that I willingly, for some reason, decided to throw myself back into the light novel hole. And yeah, I got curious about this one show, and you thought there was never a girl online. It I don't know how long I'll stick with it, but it feels like it's trying to be a commentary on how people live their lives differently in online games than they do in real life, and about the kind of person who can't distinguish between the two, our main heroine. And it leads to some goofy moments, but there's some that are just feel a little too real. And I mean, I get that's what they're going for, but at the same time, it's kind of like, oh no, no, I don't want to relive something like this. It's tough, but at the same time, I guess necessary.
Well, yeah, a show that was good that ventured in that territory was Watamote, but I kind of have a feeling this one will probably be more on the, I don't know, straightforward humorous note, or at least that's what you hope for, I guess.
I hope so. Time will tell.
Okay, yeah, another show I picked up is Joker Game. after we had a group of people in detective agency, now we have a group of spies. Though for this one, the setting is kind of peculiar and interesting, and also my biggest problem with the show, and that is that it's set right in 1937, which is pretty much right before World War II, which was not a nice time for a lot of people in Japan and elsewhere.
Yeah.
But especially when it comes to the attitude in Japan, the political climate, and well, not only in Japan but also in my country, sadly. Since this show is about spies and that's a political subject in a way, or can be, and I think that's how the show is playing it right from the get-go. I'm kind of worried where it might go. That it might ignore some of the things that happened in that time, or if it doesn't ignore them, maybe play them down or retcon them or something. I was worried about that. But I already heard that the second episode is pretty much going in in the direction that basically condemns imperialism and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I feel like the show might be going the right direction, and that has my whole hopes up.
Yeah, I mean,
so.
I get why you would be a little about the time periods, and I mean, I think it's neat where the time that's in, but I also have this underlying fear that it might turn into this like overly jingoistic piece. And I mean, I'm not super familiar with the story of Joker game, but there was a live action movie before this, and apparently I think a series of novels even before that. So it this is a pre-established story that again don't know much about other than hey, this is a production IG show that looks neat. Let's check it out.
That's what is definitely going to keep me around for now. Are the visuals, because despite the characters not looking that vastly different from each other in terms of design, the animation is top notch and everything. So this is production IG at their best, I guess.
And I said, I think a couple of days ago, that they could probably get away with or they're trying to get away with character designs like that because they're trying to keep it a little more grounded in something resembling reality.
Yeah. Real Japanese people in real Japanese animation. Anyway, another show you want to talk about?
How about My Hero Academia?
Oh yes, please do so.
It's already a pretty good looking show by our boys at Bones. I mean, I don't think it's any secret that you and I have a very deep love for Studio Bones.
Not all of their projects, but a huge amount of them. Yes, definitely.
Well, a respect for them.
Yeah.
But it's all about this. It's about this world where there are superheroes, and this one kid, Deku, or whatever his actual name was, Izuku.
Just say Deku, it works.
Yeah. This kid Deku, he's grown up all his life. Like, yeah, I want to be a superhero. Yeah. And in this world, people have their powers manifest as what are called quirks. And one day, Deku and his mother go to the doctor and it's like, kid, you don't got no quirks. You're not special. And it's like, oh. And you feel really bad for him because it's like there's just one thing that he wanted to do with his life, and he's not sure now how to go about it. And I feel like there's a really good emotional investment in his struggle.
Yeah, exactly. It's really interesting. He idolizes this one superhero who was the first hero to appear or something, All Might.
Yeah.
Or at least he's the biggest one. He's like his idol, and that's what drove him to, I want to become a hero. I can't wait until I'm a hero. And bam, kid, you should give up. You can't become a hero because you don't have any quirks. And from that moment on, he just started his notebooks where he basically wrote down every hero villain encounter and all strength and weaknesses and how heroes go about saving people, and he got all that detailed in his little sketchbooks. And that's it's pretty neat. But all his classmates, his friend in quotes, who's like the biggest asshole on the fucking show, is always putting him down for not having any quirks and trying to get into the same academy as him, just through his grades and not having quirks and stuff like that. So
I mean,
yeah,
Deku has a heart of gold, though, so,
yeah, he does. And I think I already liked the first episode and was like, yeah, this is completely up my alley. But then the second episode hit and was like, oh my god, this is the best thing. I love it. I love you, Deku. I love this show. I love you, All Might. I love everything about this. I love the direction, the music that hits at a specific scene in the second episode. I was sitting on my treadmill, my home trainer? I don't know, but I was like pumping the air with my fist. Yeah, fuck you. Yeah, go. It was so fucking hype. And yeah, great, fantastic direction in the show. I mean, the premise itself, we've seen that it's kind of your shown typical shonen stuff, but like I mentioned before in our show, I really like this shit. I really do, especially these feats of heroism from underdogs who don't really have any powers and like defy all odds and go against the villains. I just love this, and the show does this really, really well.
I think it's kind of neat because I feel like some of like the designs for the heroes are like more inspired by like Western comics, I feel like.
Oh yeah,
like
yeah. It's like with Hero Man.
a
It feels like
bit, yeah.
yeah.
Because in some of the early PVs, when they were showing off the characters and flashing their names on the screen, like the style that they were showing their names in were like as comic book characters, like different ones. Like there's one that looked like the Hulk logo. There's one that looked like the Flash logo. So it's like, okay, I see where you're going with this, and I think it's neat.
Yeah. Oh, I'm looking forward to the rest of the show. Really, I can't wait for the next episode. Okay, so another show I watched. I don't know. I will keep it around again. Is Sakamoto desu ka, or haven't you heard? I'm Sakamoto, which is a comedy show. It's about this guy, Sakamoto, as the name implies, who is perfect in every way. And at this point, you would probably say, why would I watch a show about that guy? That's boring. Well, it's the show is more from the perspective of the people around him who are really annoyed by him being so perfect. So the first episode basically consists of his classmates trying to get him into trouble because they want him to look bad. And
that sounds pretty funny, actually.
But they always fail because he's so fucking perfect that he always evades the most ludicrous trips in the most ridiculous ways. And it's so fucking funny. That humor really hit my nerve, and yeah, I laughed through all of this episode because he's just so ridiculous. It kind of reminds me a bit of Chroma T High School, but it's not as outlandish, I would say. In its non sequitur humor, like it's more contextual and stuff. So I like it, but I don't know how long that kind of humor, even if it's playing to its strengths now, right now. How long it will keep me around. Maybe it will get boring at a certain point. I don't know. Well, but right now, after the first episode, I was like, okay, this is super. This is really funny. I want to stick around and see if this can keep up the pace or if it gets boring after a while. So let's see.
That's cool. I mean, it's not one that I had really looked at, but I've seen the name pop up. So I hope it turns out to be good.
Yeah, I'm always kind of hesitant to just go for comedy only shows because humor is a difficult thing to do well, and if there's not an underlying narrative that's also interesting, I kind of I tend to drop off. So we'll see how I fare with this one.
Yeah, I mean, looking at my Hummingbird profile, apparently I gravitate very heavily toward comedy, a lot more than I thought, but like 224 out of 409 titles.
Yeah. Okay. That's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
Jesus Christ, man. Well, tell us about a possible 250 or something.
Well, I don't know if it's comedy, but there's a new Macross.
Oh man, there is. That's right.
This is the moment I had been waiting for because I rewatched Macross Frontier back in December, and I was like, yeah, I can't wait for Delta. And I watched the first 2 episodes of Delta, and I want more. Like,
man,
I know I talk at length about Gundam, and I love Gundam. It's it's high up on the list of mecha shows for me, but sometimes I feel like Macross just edges it out because there's something about, the way you've got a jet that also turns into a mech, which is great.
Yeah, love the Valkyries. You gotta love it.
Yeah, and the characters' designs are always very appealing, I feel like, in the Macross series. And something that I feel like it did before many other anime was the whole like music and idol angle.
Mm-hmm.
But it does it.
Yeah,
Oh god.
it feels like a mix. It feels like a mix between your typical Macross with the idol thing this time around, but now with a bit of Symphogear sprinkled in because the idols actually fight, kinda.
Yeah.
So that's cool. It's not like they sing for love and bring people together, but they also kick ass while doing that.
Well, I mean, and
heal people not only from a distance,
Yeah, and I mean, I guess it's necessary this time around for them to be more involved in combat, just because of the big whole VAR syndrome thing that's part of the story.
Yeah.
Where suddenly people are like, "Oh, hey, I feel like being violent today," and it's like, "Oh, well, either you got to put him down or have one of the idols who are part of a group called Valkyrie take care of them."
So far, it's been just men that got violent, right? Or did I miss something in the first episode?
I mean, I don't think I've seen any women yet, but I mean, there's it's only 2 episodes in, so there's time.
Yeah, and I wasn't like hooked immediately because it's CG Max again. Though for Max that's okay, but it's always a bit choppy when it comes to TV shows, TV anime, like the CGI is. I feel, but I got this nice tool that like raises the frame count for this stuff to 60 frames, so it looks better then. And yeah, and then at the end of the first episode, or like the last third, fucking Ikenai Borderline.
Yes!
That song, man.
Oh my god. When they start singing that song.
Yeah. So that's one of the best insert songs in an anime I've heard in quite a while. And at that moment, I was hooked. So I'm firmly on board for this one.
Yeah, and I'm
just for that simple reason.
And I'm glad in the first episode. I don't know if you watched the preview that was back in like December or January.
No.
The end of the episode, of the preview episode, I should say, was a lot sooner than the end of the actual first episode. So I'm glad, they kind of had some extra scenes in there and that they were able to drag out Ikenai Borderline.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely going to keep watching.
Yep, me too. Another thing I will definitely keep on watching is, of course, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Diamond is Unbreakable.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. And of course, after our big JoJo episode, we already said that new JoJo's is coming this season, and that is Diamond is Unbreakable with the new protagonist, Josuke. But Jotaro is also making a return, and this is all set this time around in this one rural town of, I forgot its name.
Moriocho, I think.
Yeah, typical small Japanese town. And at least for the first 2 episodes, they're like hunting the most evil person on the planet besides Dio, I have a feeling. At least when it comes to the description. Yeah, he killed that many people and then he raped them, or the other way around. We don't know.
Yeah, he just seems like he was killing just for the sake of killing, and it's like,
yeah,
I get that, they're trying to set it up for, hey, this is what this is gonna be. This is the kind of scum they're gonna deal with. But I feel like this guy was particularly nasty.
Yeah, and it's kind of only, I guess he was only the setup for characters, but I think they were alluding to the fact that he was working for someone, or I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, we'll see. It's JoJo's. It's fantastic. It's funny. I mean, Araki goes into full dog killing mode in the second episode already. Again,
that was tough, man.
That was nasty, even for his standards. Holy shit! Anyway, it's fun. It looks great. Got a great opening and ending theme again. So yeah, looking forward to more, man. It's JoJo's. What more can you say? This is definitely you will have a review of that in the season after this, because it's gonna run for 38 episodes, I think.
Yeah, it's
So
not going to be for like 2 more seasons after this.
2 months, right? Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's gonna be around for quite a while, but I'm looking forward to more. Jojo's is always great. Another show you want to talk about?
I think we hit on all of my major picks.
Oh, all right. So I got 2 more. Another one I'm not sure I'm gonna stick around for, and that's Twin Star Exorcists, or I forgot the Japanese name.
Sosei no Onmyoji.
Yes. So yeah, this is even more typical shonen fare stuff. Weird dude with a tragic past who is also the strongest exorcist on a fucking planet. Apparently, stumbles into a girl with a quirky demeanor. She's not talking much or something, and is like, or is when she talks in this really reduced way. And yeah,
Benio is very obstinate, let's say.
yeah. And yeah, you've seen that setup before, and it doesn't really do anything special with what it has. So I don't know if I will stick around, but like I said, I'm very lenient when it comes to those things, so I probably will. The major downside for me is, or might be, is that it's animated by Studio Pierrot, and like A1, they are a bit of hit and miss when it comes to longer series, and I don't think that one has a confirmed episode count yet, so we'll see.
I feel like the action sequences in the first couple episodes, though, were really well animated, so...
They were decent, and there's that standout episode in the first episode where our main guy like delivers a righteous shoryuken to the face of a monster. That was pretty damn awesome. But yeah, they were not excellent or something. Like it's good for Pierrot, but it's still just alright when you compare it to other studios. So I know that's not particularly fair, but I feel like I've seen better, even Pierrot do better in Tokyo Ghoul, for example. But then again, maybe that it was a more popular manga series and they got a bigger budget for that. So I don't know. We'll see. For now, that's not a definite lock. I don't know about you. You seem kind of lukewarm about it too.
I think I've seen what I want to see out of it.
All right. Oh, there you go. Then that's probably, if I stick around, that's probably going to be a solo review for me. Anyway, but the last show I'm going to touch on that for a lot of people seems to be the show of the season already. If it's not Jojo's, it's Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress, or at least it's one of the most promising shows. It's by, I think, the same director who did Attack on Titan.
Yeah, Tetsuro Araki.
Yeah, and you can see the style. Like, it's very comparable to Attack on Titan. You got like these, you got this post-apocalyptic setting with different villages connected by just by train rails, and between those areas in the villages, they're like zombies running around, and if they bite you, well, you turn into one as well. The specifics of this disease have not been explained yet correctly, but or entirely. But yeah, that's what the main setting is, and it's basic, like, we know some of the stuff from Attack on Titan, but it looks much better than Attack on Titan in my opinion, just in terms of character designs and maybe even overall animation, even though it's again by the same Studio Wit.
The character designs and the artwork are absolutely gorgeous in Kabaneri. Like, I watched the first episode. I'm still waiting on the second one because it technically hasn't aired yet. But watching the first episode, I was like, wow, because it looks very old school, like 70s, 80s character designs, and the animation was really fluid, and I won't take away from it that it's very attractive, but I don't know how long I'm going to stick around because there were some moments that I'm not sure I have the stomach for.
Did you watch all of Attack on Titan?
I did, and I'm amazed I got through that.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Like, if you got to Titan, I kind of want to believe you can get through this, but we'll see.
I mean, I'm going to watch the second episode when it airs later, and then I'll probably render my decision whether I want to continue based on that.
Don't get me wrong. I agree. It's harsh stuff. Like, this is like so dark, and despite its beautiful artwork, it's like it's very grim. Yeah, we'll see where it goes. I like these dark post apocalyptic settings and the violence of it all. So for me, it depends on what they do with it. If the writing is good, if the main character is interesting, and where they go with the overall story and everything. So yeah. But for now, this is a lock because it just looks so fucking stellar, and I hope Studio Wick can up that level of quality. So we'll see. Anyway, that's it for the sneak peek. So from a bunch of series that are really promising, or yeah, most of them anyway, to one that definitely didn't fulfill its potential, if it ever had any to begin with. All right, in the trash stash today, we have Prince of Stride, which is this show about this, well, what are they? Like free running? It's a free running club.
Well, it's in the
parkour.
Yeah, in the show, or I guess I should say in the story, because it's actually adapted from a visual novel. In the story, they deal with this sport called Stride, which is essentially parkour.
I was drawn to this show first because of the sports angle. This is always what this kind of, it's like, oh, I see what this show is. And what this show is grade A Fujoshi bait again. It's like the boys get turned into literal models in the first or second episode. One even gets to put into a wedding dress. And, no merit besides the fan services in this, in my opinion. And while I'm not bothered by its man meat, that's not what I'm watching these shows for. I'm always going into it for the sports angle and then stay for the character stuff. And this is no Free, for example. Free was like the same thing on paper. It's like this, here's the swim club and all those pretty boys. And they have adventures together and try to go to championships and something. And swim and be free. Literally. But yeah, it's also had great animation and great character writing, actually. And the sports angle was cool too. So I stuck around for that. But the sports angle, this one was, I don't know.
It seemed very secondary.
Secondary, and the execution was kind of lame in its presentation, which I did not expect because it was fucking Madhouse who animated it. I don't know. Did you feel the same? I felt the animation was a bit lackluster.
I felt it was very flat in a lot of places where it could have been a lot more.
Yeah, that's the right word.
Where it could have been like a lot more kinetic because, parkour is exciting. You're jumping around all over stuff, running as fast as you can, which, is great. If you've ever played Mirror's Edge, or if you've ever watched, there's this one French action film called District B13, which is essentially parkour the movie, then that's something more what I was hoping for, but it just doesn't really ever hit its stride, let's say.
Oh, god damn you.
I'm sorry, I had to.
Anyway, what also put me off, like I said, it's not just the sports angle that was not that well executed in my opinion, but also the characters were just these typical archetypes, which is not problematic in itself, but they were also, the dialogue between them was really getting on my nerves. They're just frantically talking over each other, and they got nothing interesting to say. It's like, hey, let's spew this, I don't know, this shit at you that we need to talk about now because that's what boys of like us apparently do. And yeah, then you got the Fujoshi fill-in character, which you got, for the mole crowd in the reverse shows for this stuff as well. You gotta always have the guy you can project yourself onto, and got that for the girls in this one as well. And she's not really interesting either. So I don't know. Yeah. It's just the whole show really fell flat for me in all aspects after like 2 to 3 episodes.
I mean, I was kind of hoping it would be something interesting because the woman who directed it, Atsuko Ishizuka, has directed a couple other shows that I really enjoyed. So she directed The Pet Girl of Sakura So and Hanagamata, which are both I feel really enjoyable.
But-
I mean, Hana Yamata was also animated by Madhouse, and it's a really pretty show.
I wonder what went wrong here. Something in the art direction just didn't work for Prince of Stride.
Yeah.
And depending on what you look for in these shows, what you get here might be sufficient for your needs. Like if you just, hey, pretty boys having fun adventures together, and there's some emotional connection that gets elaborated on later and stuff like that. But just, I don't know. For me, it wasn't enough. It wasn't what I'm looking for, and that's why I dropped it. And I guess for you, it was the same.
Yeah, pretty much. It just didn't live up to what I was hoping it would be.
Yeah, sometimes that happens, and that's what our trash stash is for, among other things. So
Yeah.
anyway, from a show that didn't live up to our already pretty low standards to one that reached high scores in all the right areas.
Yeah, so I think the big critical darling from the past season was a little something called Erased, or Boku Dakegai Nai Machi, if you want to sound like a weeb.
Yeah, if you want to do that, which we don't.
Or if you want to,
that is-
or you know, if you want to make it apparent that you pirate anime.
Well,
We do not condone piracy at Anime Brain Freeze.
no, not at all. We might occasionally have to use it because some companies are very shit about not, offering their show to streaming services.
Macross.
And you fucking Macross. Or well, that's not their fault. There's some licensing shenanigans for that series
Yeah.
in general. But yeah, that's when you have to rely on piracy to get your anime fix, I guess,
Yeah.
or you have to wait, which we hate. So there you go. Anyway,
Erased.
back to Erased. Yes.
We talked about this before, but it's all about this guy, Satoru Fujinuma, who's a struggling manga artist. He has kind of a very ho-hum, ordinary life where he works as a pizza delivery guy, and he's trying to break out of that. But he discovers one day that he has the power, albeit not of his own volition, but he can turn back time, and he uses that to prevent like people from getting hurt or killed or whatnot. And it's displayed, very prominently in our first episode, where he saves a kid from getting run over by a tractor trailer, where the driver died from a heart attack. But he finds out very soon after that he ends up having to use this power to save someone who's a lot closer to him, and it ends up sending him way back further than he thought, like all the way back to his formative years in elementary school. And his adventure begins almost 20 years in the past from where he currently is.
And we get some nice black bars at the at the top and bottom for his for the episodes that are set in the past, to have like this cinematic feeling for it, and distinguishes from from the present, from the stuff that's set in the present time.
Yeah, like how they use the film reels to illustrate that something is a flashback or is in the past, which
Yeah.
is neat.
Yeah, there are a lot of neat, little, visual tricks in the show that highlight specific things, and that speaks for its great direction. Speaking of which, it's directed by Tomohiko Ito, who did a lot of storyboards and also directed Occult Academy, Silver Spoon, and a very familiar name, Sword Art Online. Well, the story in Sword Art was pretty shit, but I remember that direction to be pretty good. Like, the show, Sword Art looked great.
I guess we can't blame A1 for Reki Kawahara's mistakes.
No, probably not. Still, it was a surprise how well Erased turned out after I read he had that Ito had a hand in sword art. So I'm glad. Yeah, it's adapted from the manga by Kei Sanbei and produced by A1 Pictures, who came through, I gotta say. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, the quality on the show was probably some of their best from beginning to end.
Most of these episodes look great, and especially the stuff that's set in the past. It's very moody, it's very atmospheric. The coloring is really great. Yeah, it's just the show looks fantastic. There's no way talking around it, and they might have a few shortcuts in a few episodes, but if they or had to use them when it comes to the animation, but if they did, they weren't as so prominent that I noticed them. So yeah, great looking show, just fantastic. The script is by by Taku Kishimoto, who wrote the script for Bunny Drop, Haikyuu, and our new coming show this season, Jojo game. He also, again, flashback, he also did this series composition for Prince of Stride, which we just mentioned, but not the script, so I'll just blame the way that show turned out on the original visual novel, or someone else here and not him, because, like I said, dialogue and writing in Erased, even though that was an adaptation from manga too, was pretty damn great, and the scenes and the way they were planned out had the emphasis on all the right moments. So yeah, definitely great work in terms of script and direction in the show. It's fantastic. It's like I said, show is oozing atmosphere at all points with its setting and plot device, and to an extent, it's a central mystery. Yeah, I liked it. I think at this point, I just gotta say I want to go into the deeper discussion of the show, so that means few spoilers here and there. We're gonna try to avoid the major ones, but just be warned, if you want to know nothing about the show, this is probably where you want to tune off. But yeah, I felt like the show is its strongest in its first half.
Why do you say that?
Well, there are so many memorable moments, like the way the blossoming friendship between Hinazuki and Satoru is portrayed. I really connected to that. That really resonated with me for a reason. And the animation shines in those moments the most as well, in my opinion. That scene in the snow in front of the tree, it looks so damn good. and when you first connect with Hinazuki and pulls her out of her miserable state of mind, my heart like literally jumped with joy. And then shortly after, when I and Satoru basically realized at the same time that his first efforts were half-hearted and for naught. So
yeah, the show does a lot of it does it really well of making you feel like, yeah, this is a good scene, I feel good. But then it immediately has the ability to turn around and be like, no, you don't. There's something even worse coming.
It's like it pulls your heartstrings, and it does a really good job at certain points to give you a false sense of security. It's also one of the most interesting things of the show, and that's one that actually goes throughout the whole series. Satoru fails. He's not like this perfect shonen protagonist you might... Well, you don't get the feeling of that in the beginning, because he's also in a state of his life where he doesn't really know where he goes. But once you know that thing happens to him and he gets transported to the past, I got a feeling at the beginning that he was like, oh, okay, this is like where he goes into full-on hero mode, and he becomes the guy who just goes for it and saves like the day, because he knows he got knowledge from the future, and he's a more adult person than the kids around him. He can play all of them, like, because he has the knowledge of a 20-year-old or something, right?
Yeah.
That's not fully grown up, but he has an advantage, and to an extent he makes use of that, but he's not a detective. And you could draw from the basic plot, you could draw a lot of parallels between Case Closed, Detective Conan, and this show. Because you got this adult person, or somewhat adult person, in a kid's body, who can again give the people around him a false sense of security, or get the feeling that they know what they're getting, but he's a more intelligent person, or more world savvy maybe. But Satoru is not that. He's not Conan. He's not perfect. He says that he's playing detective, but what he's actually doing is playing the hero. He only plans ahead to a certain extent, and instead of always thinking ahead, he reacts a lot. He rushes in, which is ultimately his downfall in a way, even though he accomplishes a lot of good while doing so.
I feel like that makes it a little more believable because,
Oh yeah.
how do you plan for every last contingency unless, you're like big bad villain and whatever. But he's like, okay, I have to change my plans. What do I do? And, he sits down and he formulates something so that, he can keep his plans
Friends
together.
say. Yeah, and it doesn't always work out. That's the thing here. And that's not something that necessarily, happens in anime in general, because you got a lot of heroes in, comparable shows who are like, oh, I've always got a plan in my, in my bag. Always got an ace up my sleeve. Like, or they always do. It's like, oh no, I plan for this ahead because I'm the super intelligent person. Well, he's not that. Like, I feel like the hero motive that's really dominant in the show, like the formative thing for his character, is driven home much more vehemently in the manga, but it's still very present in the anime as well. For example, the imagery, although I don't know if that was actually anime, where he listens to his favorite superhero show's opening theme on a record.
Yeah, I think they touched on that.
Yeah. So if they mentioned that in the show, I don't know if they depicted it, but it was depicted in the manga. So yeah, that's driven home a lot through other things as well, much more so than the detective mystery imagery. Satoru, I don't know if you remember, but in one of the later episodes where he's trying to rescue not Hinazuki, but another girl of the cast, he gets downright offended when she calls superheroes stupid. That wasn't him trying to act like a child. That was a gut reaction of his adult self, I would say, albeit fueled by, regressing to a more childlike state because he spends like around his time around kids so much due to his current situation. But he loves superheroes.
Yeah.
That's what he's going for, or that's why he's doing this, and he's trying to be a hero for Hinazuki and for his friends. And superhero themed manga and TV shows were probably the reason he decided to be a mangaka in the first place. I think that's reasonable.
It makes sense.
Yeah, so him acting and reacting the way he does throughout the series is pretty much in line with the imagery that formed his early, base definition of a heroic person. I also think it's pretty safe to say one of the show's motives is to compare these kinds of childish ideals that he has from watching those hero shows and everything to the harsh nature of reality by always, playing him and the viewer and putting the whole thing on its head by, showing, no, it in reality, it doesn't work like that, kid. You got to make different plans, and you can't account for everything. Like we already said, some of his plans fail, and they fail in a very horrible way. Playing detective is just that. Being a hero is more than what your movies, TV shows, and comics painted to be, etc. In the last third of the show, I heard a lot. I heard a lot of people, well, not a lot, but some people having a problem with how the story kind of developed. Like once he resolves that one conflict from the first half, we get into a bit of where he tries to basically rescue the rest of his friends, make sure that they're safe from the killer, and then we get in the last third we pretty much get the big reveal who the killer is and everything. And yeah, some people were not content with how that worked out, apparently.
Really?
Because it was too obvious.
I feel like they kind of put enough of a spin on it to be,
Yeah, there were some red herrings, but they were so blatant. I don't know. It worked for me too. Too, but I feel like I can see why some people were kind of put off or let down by it. And then again, these hero stories we were talking about are usually very upfront with who their villain is. The guy you expect to be the cackling mastermind is exactly the one who it turns out to be at the end. In that regard, the show again lives up to the theme and motives it was trying to establish. I mean, when the villain finally got revealed, it's in a somewhat semi-cliched way with evil smirk and red eyes and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And like I mentioned before, the guy, you almost ignored as a possible villain candidate because it would be kind of way too obvious, or one of the only possible candidates turns out to be the villain. I wasn't bothered by it because, like I said, it fits with one of the themes of the show. But yeah, I can understand why people didn't really like it. Plus, we never got to see its full origin story of and why he turned out to be the way he is. It was in the manga, but I assume they cut it for time. And it was kind of generic anyway, in my opinion. So it's not a huge loss, but maybe for some people that would have made a bit of a difference, to make it more interesting.
Probably, yeah.
Also, unless I missed it, did we ever get a real explanation as to why Satoru has his revival powers?
No, we didn't.
I mean, the series alludes to some spiritual reason, but that could just as well be crazy talk by the killer, if I'm not mistaken. Like all this, I can see you have this thread of life hanging over your head, and I can see it, and yeah, there's this I have this connection to a god or something, or that's what he believes.
I just remember something about like a spider's web.
Yeah, exactly. It's something like that, and well, it's not really like, yeah, that could be it, but that's really out there.
Yeah, maybe it's more outlined in the manga. I'm not sure.
Probably a bit, but I just checked the manga for comparison with the ending and the reveal of the killer and everything. So I'm not sure how well they elaborate on that specific aspect. So, dear listeners, if you got some info on that, emails are welcome, or comments in that regard. So,
just be nice.
Yeah.
Be nice with your criticism, internet.
So, what did you think about the reveal of the killer? Were you like content with how the story developed after the first, basically the first conflict was solved?
I mean, I thought it worked for what it was. I see where you're going for where some people might be like, oh, because it does get to a point where it's like, yeah, it's this person. Because leading up to it, you don't really suspect that particular character, or I didn't anyway. But then there's a certain couple of scenes where
it gets super suspicious.
Where it's like, wait a minute.
It's so like blatant in a way that you think, well, there's got to be a red herring because this is too obvious, and well, no.
Yeah,
it's exactly as it looks. and I, for me, the strength of the show and the focus of the show was never the mystery. So I guess that's why I wasn't as turned off by it. For me, it was always the characters and the way it, like, how is this gonna resolve, and not specifically who's the killer behind it all. Like that was an interesting thing, but that was not the real focus point of the story for me. So I guess that's why I wasn't as let down by it as some people.
Yeah.
So what did you think of the ending?
I thought it had a fitting ending. The killer was brought to justice, and the final scenes leading up to that, I was like, oh, because there's one scene that's very, I guess you'd say, precarious, because Satoru puts himself in quite a dangerous position leading up to it.
And the resolution to that is a bit forced, to be fair. Like, it's a bit like, what?
Yeah.
Okay, how did you plan for that exactly? And that it all worked out. That's the only part of the show I would say, yeah, now we're getting in Detective Conan territory. Like,
yeah, I guess I could see why you'd say that.
But it still worked for me, because at this point you're like, oh, okay. And that scene also puts an exclamation point on what it's been saying for pretty much its entire runtime. You can be as heroic as you want. Don't try to do it all by yourself, or you will fail. Satoru's trusting his friends, whose trust he gained by being supportive and kind of a hero figure in their childhood. And they finally give him the ability to get the better of the villain of the show, which he couldn't do on his own. I mean, it's a simple message. It's like, friends are important, people. Get them if you can. Try to make friends.
Yeah, especially when Kenya, during the younger sequences of the show, is like, hey, you have friends. You can lean on us. And Satoru kind of, just comes to realize that. And he's like, okay, yeah, I guess I could ask you guys for help instead of trying to do this all on my own.
And it takes him like until the end of the show to fully commit to that, like completely rely on his friends, for all of it, to save his bacon, basically. So yeah, that's that's cool. And I think overall, just in general, the ending wraps up nicely. It's nice to see what happened to all the characters you got to know as kids and how they grew up. And yeah, I liked it. I liked the way it came full circle, basically, and gave me fuzzy feelings in the chest area.
It hit you in the feels, as the kids
Yeah,
say.
yeah, definitely. Many times over, not only in that last episode. I don't know. Is there anything more you want to mention about the story?
No, I think you hit on all the good stuff.
Okay, so we talked about the voice actor for the adult version of the main character before, Shinosuke Mitsushima.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like saying in our sneak peek for last season when we talked about it, Race, I was like, I don't know if I really like his performance because it's subdued. It reminds me a bit of Hideaki Anno's performance in The Wind Rises, who's also not a professional seiyuu, and I don't know if I like it, if it's emotional enough for certain scenes. And Mitsushima's performance wasn't as alienating as Anno's, and his voice work really grew on me after a while. I don't know if you agree, but I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel, though, that Tao Tsuchiya, the one who played him as a child, was a bit more expressive. But, I guess you could make the argument that people's temperaments change as they
Yeah.
age. So Mitsushima, I fit the bill, I guess you could say.
Yeah, definitely. It works for that specific character. I don't know if for others as well, but for this one, for this version of the character, it works. The soundtrack is also great in that show by good old Yuki Kajira,
Mm-hmm.
and it's pretty much stellar throughout the whole series, in my opinion. Just really highlights the emotional moments and in the best way, and also makes you fear for the characters at certain points when things get really really dangerous. And
Yeah, she's really got a knack for nailing the atmosphere with her music.
Also great openings and endings. I think Sorewa Chisa no Hikari no Yona is one of my favorite ending themes now. It's by Sayuri, and it always worked great as a very emotional send-off after an equally emotional episode. I don't know, the way it starts with its somber guitar and everything. Yeah, it's
very appropriate for the subject matter.
What did you think about the opening by Asian Kung Fu Generation?
Well, I mean, I love Asian Kung Fu Generation. I feel like it had been a while since I'd heard them with this intro, but the intro touches on a lot of really neat stuff with some subtle, some not so subtle with its imagery.
Oh yeah, in the second to last episode, I believe, no, the last episode where one of the scenes where a lot of it changes, like from the previous incarnations of the intro.
There were, I believe, 3 different versions of the intro. There was the initial one, then there was the one where a certain character is absent entirely, and it kind of paints every scene in like an entirely different light. And then at the end, where in the first intro, like there's a whole, I guess you could say, the appearance of certain characters is redacted, but they're not during the final intro sequence. Just because now we know who everyone is, now we know what's going on with the story, and I feel like it worked out as an equivalent for the truth is now known.
Yeah, I like it when anime do that with their when they play with their intros and like change them accordingly to the story development and give you a few hints here and there about what's happening. And I like that. I like that with Jojo's. I like this with this one, and I hope I can see more of that for other series. It's neat. Although it gets bad if things get too spoilery. Second opening of Attack on Titan was one of those cases because it basically gave away who the bad guy in the second part of that first season is, and that was kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Well, this one didn't. So
I mean, I know I mentioned him before in one of our previous recordings, but there's this guy goes by the name Jeff Thu, and he's got a YouTube channel called Mother's Basement. In one of his recent videos, he actually talked about the intro sequence for Erased, and he really broke it down in an interesting way.
Okay, that's a recommendation. Check that out if you have the time. Go to YouTube and check out my Mother's Basement for an analysis of that.
Yeah, he likes pointing out different things like various opening sequences and different shows and movies and whatnot. It's pretty cool. I like listening to what he has to say about stuff.
Do you have like any favorite character in that show, or I don't know. I feel like for myself, this is I pretty much like the entire cast.
Yeah.
So it's hard to pick this time around. It's like, oh, of course you got the main characters, but there's a lot of interesting side players as well. And I don't know, who were your favorites? If you would try to name any of them.
I mean, I like Satoru because he's all throughout the show trying to do the right thing and help whoever he can. I also really like his mother.
Oh yeah,
because
great character.
She obviously looked out for him, but she didn't take anyone's shit really.
She comes close to being a bit too perfect because she's like a very understanding mom. She goes not in the wrong direction when it comes to trying to get doing the best for her son. She is always very patient and pretty much can see what her son wants to do at a lot of turns of the story, and never throws a hissy fit because he is, I don't know, out late again or something like that.
Yeah.
So she's kind of a bit of a perfect mom, but
well, I mean,
we
see
great.
more of her as just like a regular old mom in the first episode, and she's just needling him about all sorts of things. Like
yeah.
I don't know. I like that.
You should do that. Get your life together. Shit like that. Yeah.
He's like, yeah, okay, mom.
Yeah. Stop annoying me. Yeah. I just like the like I already mentioned. That's why the first half of the show was the stronger one for me. I just really like the way the relationship between Hinazuki and or Kayo is her first name, and Satoru is characterized and portrayed and everything.
Yeah,
and
I liked the dynamic and like the budding friendship between them too.
It had a delicate touch, I would say. It felt really nice to see it grow. I don't know. It just gave me a really good feeling just to see those two become friends. And I don't know if I want to call it a sense of nostalgia setting for friendships I formed in my childhood, but it just maybe that's what it resonated with. It just like, hey, sometimes it's easy for kids to become friends, even if one of them strictly isn't a kid anymore, and they make fun of that several times too. But yeah, it was just nice. It was really nice to see that, and how it turned out, and yeah. So if you don't have anything more to add, I recommend Erased to everyone who likes great animation and character writing. The mystery in this is pretty simple. So it's probably not for the junior detectives among you. But I, for myself, was just enthralled by the presentation, the characters, the story, and the emotions in that show for pretty much its entire runtime. John, seems like you felt the same.
Yeah.
So, neat little show. Definitely the highlight of last season for us. Yeah, go and check it out. Nothing more to say about this one.
It's a good show. It's a good show.
And that is a wrap on the 6th episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our show is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to vrt.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and animebrainfreeze.com. Leave us a comment any way you like, or send us an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next episode. Adios.
See you when we see you.
Also, giri mind, motherfuckers.
Oh.